I first met my husband when I was 5 and he was 23. He was studying with my godfather, the late Robert Hale Ives Gamble. And on Saturdays, my father would bring me into the studio so that my mother could go play golf. The man who painted these very tranquil still lifes and landscape was the same kind of person who you got to deal with on an everyday basis. He was very interested in what was going on around him. He was much better at people watching than I am. And he would never say very much, but when he got a twinkle in his eye, if you caught that from across the room, you pretty well knew what he was thinking, and it was usually very funny. He worked using what is called the sight-sized method of painting, so that he would set up his tabletop still life and then arrange the easel with the canvas so that it was resting next to the frontal plane of the tabletop. So you can flip your eye from physical nature to the canvas very quickly, very easily, and see any drawing mistakes. It's an easy way of correcting the drawing. Over time, he found that still life was for him the most satisfying medium. He would go off and study still life. That's the area that fascinated him the most. It gave him the opportunity to bring a sense of serenity and order out of the chaos of the world. The chaos of the world was in fact his studio, because a still life painter is going to want to have at his fingertips an unimaginable selection of objects. The other thing about still life properties is you don't want to dust them or polish them. If you need a polished piece of brass, it's easy to get. But if you need a dusty bottle, best you have left it there for a couple of years. My cleaning lady went nuts. She hated it. But when Bob was going to set up a still life, that was the one time when he insisted that the studio door be closed and he be left alone. Sometimes it took him 2 or 3 hours to do an arrangement to his satisfaction. Other times, but rarely, it would take a couple of days. And if it was running on the long side, he got crankier and crankier and crankier. But once the arrangement was set, he was happy and didn't mind if the kids and I or friends came in and sat and watched him paint and ask questions, because that was the craft end of making a picture as opposed to the creative end. Taking students is something that artists have done since the time of the Renaissance. When Bob was going to school, it was at a time when art schools were dropping drawing. They were moving away from the kind of in-studio discipline that had been the hallmark of training painters up to that time. He was always encouraging to people to give it a shot. Because, as he said, everybody has access to landscape. You don't need a Northlight studio. And with minimal help, you can find a pleasing arrangement. Then it's just a question of training the eye to see shapes and values and colors. So he was apt to demystify the process. That was a major part of his work. As I look around the gallery here and see the work of a large number of students, including Sid Willis, who was his first student, and our daughter, Kate Hunter Casham, who was his most recent. I'm struck by the professionalism of the work. It speaks to the affection that his students had for Bob, and that's really gratifying.